With 1899 came rumours of war. As the year progressed, a steady stream of Johannesburg residents left for the safety of Natal and the Cape, many leaving behind their domestic workers to take care of their properties. Bloemfontein, 31st of May. President Paul Kruger and British High Commissioner Sir Alfred Milner meet around this table in a final attempt to resolve their differences. By the 5th of June, the Bloemfontein Conference has failed and war seems inevitable. Come September, panic has set in with refugees crowding Park Station, snapping up every available option to flee the looming conflict.
The mines started closing down and just dismissing their compounds full of workers. Marwick obviously sees what's happening. Now he sits with a growing number, almost 20,000 Zulus that he now needs to get out of this situation. Because war is coming, food is drying up, they're going to starve.
On horseback to Pretoria, Marwick meets with Republic Commandant General Joubert and manages to secure railway passes for his workers, giving them authorized passage back home to Natal by train. Over the next few days, thousands of Zulu workers swell the flock of refugees and manage to get out on crowded trains. But on the 2nd of October, that door is closed. All rail passenger traffic to Natal is suspended as the railways are officially commandeered by the Boers, preparing for the coming war. With some 7,000 Zulu workers left stranded on the Rand, for John Sydney Marwick there is only one option. They must walk. It's a journey of some 490 kilometers over the Drakensberg Mountains to their homes in rural Natal. But for Marwick, the first pressing objective is to escape the looming conflict and get the 7,000 across the ZAR and Natal border some 241 kilometers away at the frontier town of Volksrust.
Interestingly enough, never talked about the march to us. His sisters often talked about the march because they felt it was a very great achievement. But I think that Grandad tended to live in the present.
Back to Pretoria. But when Marwick arrives, General Joubert has already left for Sunspruit, where the Boer army is massing, preparing for the imminent invasion of Natal. Joubert's secretary, Louis de Souza, is highly skeptical of Marwick's plans. With the Boer army between Marwick and Natal, his planned march leading some 7,000 Zulus is a recipe for disaster. But Marwick insists and convinces de Souza to telegram Joubert at Sunspruit. Commandant Joubert, showing great understanding of Marwick's predicament, authorizes the safe passage on the strict condition that Marwick is personally responsible for the peaceful and orderly conduct of the 7,000 Zulus marching unarmed directly to the Natal border. Messengers are sent out notifying the Zulu workers of the planned walk. On the 4th of October 1899, Marwick addresses a crowd of thousands outside his offices in Marshall Street. In fluent Zulu, he tells them that the government has granted permission for them to march with him to the Natal border, under the escort of 6 mounted police. So as not to be robbed, he urges those that have not already done so to bank their wages at the office. They should bring only enough food and money for 5 days. Marshals are appointed to keep order on the planned march. It's a massive feat of administration and organization. In the final 3 days, Marwick channels some £10,000 in wages back to Natal. Finally, on Friday the 6th of October 1899, John Sydney Marwick, accompanied by his 2 colleagues, Wheelwright and Connaughton, marshals and 6 mounted police escorts, sets out from the agricultural showgrounds in Johannesburg for Natal. It's an epic journey, some 241 kilometers to the Natal border. Consolidated at around 7,000, including a number of women and children, on Saturday the 7th of October, having covered some 56 kilometers, they spend a cold, windy night in the rocky hills overlooking the town of Heidelberg. The next morning at Heidelberg Station, Marwick negotiates to get some 70 ailing men and 5 women and children onto a chance-packed train heading for Natal. Nearby, in the shadow of the iconic stone church, the mood is somber as the Heidelberg commando prepares to leave for the front. It will be a terrible war, with dire consequences for all. In just 3 years, graves of women and children, victims of concentration camps, will mark the landscape not far from the current resting place of the 7,000. Well stocked with food and provisions bought from Heidelberg shopkeepers and surrounding farmers, the 7,000 set off for Standerton, some 120 kilometers further on. Tuesday, 10th of October, the 4th day on the march, sees the 7,000 passing through the small siding of Waterval. For the Boers, it's a big day, the birthday of President of the Republic, Paul Kruger. In celebration, some 100 kilometers up ahead, between Marwick and the Natal border, the Boer forces are mustering under Commandant General Joubert at Sandspruit. With an army of some 8,500 men, over 5,000 horses, 400 wagons, 2,000 oxen, and 1.5 tons of stores, the Boers are ready for war. An official ultimatum has been sent to the British, giving them 24 hours' notice in which to withdraw their troops from the borders of the Republic, failing which there will be war. Wednesday, 11th of October, day 5. With the ultimatum expiring at 5 p.m., it's the final countdown. By noon, at Standerton Station, Marwick manages to get another 150 sick men onto a train heading for the Natal border. For the rest, a looming encounter with Boer forces further down the road.
At Standerton, Marwick is fully aware of this problem, that between him and his destination, there's a huge army, the biggest mounted force ever brought together until that time in southern Africa.
By midnight, war has been declared, and the 7,000 bed down in the veld on the outskirts of Paardekorp. At dawn, Marwick slaughters a bull. Small pieces are sold to the marchers to complement the rations they bought the day before in Standerton, and they set off for Sandspruit and General Joubert. Riding on ahead, after 5 hours, Marwick arrives with Corporal Williams at Sandspruit, only to find that General Joubert and his army have left for Volksrust. At the station, the mood is hostile, as Marwick now represents the enemy. There's even talk of executing him. Talking his way out of a sticky situation, Marwick succeeds in getting off a telegram to General Joubert at Volksrust, informing him that the marchers are on their way. For both Boer and Zulu, it's a miserable, wretched night on the open veld under a heavy downpour of rain. The Zulus just outside Sandspruit and the Boers 20 kilometers ahead in the shadow of Volksrust, frontier town on the Natal border. All around them, in the wet darkness, are echoes of past violent conflict and premonition of future suffering to come. The next morning, in Volksrust, Marwick finally meets with Commandant Joubert and informs him that his party of 7,000 is waiting on the outskirts of town.
A huge force of Zulus are going to descend on the town. Any spark will turn that entire commando onto this group of Zulu men and women.
In what must surely be one of the most bizarre moments in history, on the threshold of war, 65-year-old General Joubert, with his wife by his side, takes the salute as 7,000 Zulus, headed by Marwick the Englishman, march past through the frontier town of Volksrust. Friday, 13th of October, their 7th day on the march. Marwick and the 7,000 reach Langsneck, the treacherous mountain pass over the Drakensberg, snaking down below Mount Majuba. It's been raining for 2 days, and ahead of the 7,000 intrepid Zulus, the advance party of the Boer army is already negotiating its artillery battery through the muddy quagmire.
Now they've got to go down the mountain. And it's thick mist. They have the passes approval of Joubert, but the advance guard of 3,000 Boers are already halfway down the mountain, led by a guy called Trichard.
Trichard is adamant that he will not allow the Zulus to pass his advance column. He insists that the Zulus must wait until the Boers have negotiated their artillery battery down the pass. There is a tense standoff as Marwick impresses upon Trichard the explosive potential posed by the frustration of his 7,000 Zulus, exhausted and on the verge of starvation, treading on the heels of the slow-moving column of 3,000 Boer forces. Raising the temperature even further, while Marwick is busy negotiating, the Boers press gang 400 of his Zulu marchers to drag 2 cannon and 6 wagons of ammunition up the mountain slope, bypassing the muddy quagmire churned up by the throng of oxen, horses and mules moving in the pouring rain down the pass. Eventually, swayed by the opinion of his advisors, Trichard finally relents and gives the order to the commander of the artillery battery to allow Marwick and his 7,000 weary, hungry marchers to pass. For Marwick, it's a watershed moment as he finally gets the 7,000 Zulu marchers ahead of the advancing Boer army. With the invading Boer army behind him and the British forces mustering up ahead, Marwick's priority is now to avoid getting trapped between the two forces and the looming head-on conflict. At Newcastle, the advance guard of the Boer forces, hot on the heels of the 7,000, move in and formally occupy the Natal town. Approaching Danhauser, the first band of roughly 3,000 Zulus break away from the group and safely disperse towards their homes in the region of Ulundi. As they continue, more and more groups break away to make their way to homes in the surrounding rural environment. With the remaining group of around 1,000, at 5 p.m. on Sunday the 15th of October, Marwick arrives at the railway siding of Hattingspruit.
He now goes to the Natal railways and says, I've got 1,000 people. Can you put them on the train? They need to go south to Pietermaritzburg, Richmond way. I said, fine, £1 each.
Arriving in Pietermaritzburg on Monday morning, the 16th of October, it had taken Marwick and the 7,000 Zulu workers 10 days to accomplish the 490-kilometer journey. In expression of their immense gratitude, the Zulu marchers anoint Marwick Umuhle, meaning the good one.
After such an act of kindness and magnanimity, it was quite appropriate for them to give him the name of the good one, because he had done such a good thing, a good gesture to the Zulu people who wanted to be repatriated back to their homeland.
If you think he's 25 years old, that he, as a young Englishman, got the ZAR powers that be to listen to him, and Joubert was an old man at that time, and that he impressed them enough, I think is a major achievement. And the fact that he kept this entire group together in the way that he did, that they listened to him. But I think he led from the front. When there's a person who needs his horse, he gets off, he walks. So he walked and rode, I think, almost a double march. If you think of how many times he went up and down the ranks, always seeing to his stragglers.
At the time, Sydney Marwick was engaged to Miss Edith Rowe, daughter of the Reverend S. Evans Rowe. After the march, Sydney gives his fiancée this tiny gold ring to commemorate the event. The inscription on the inside reads, Edith from Sydney, October the 7th to October the 16th, 1899.